he will be born on Nazareth. Is that what was already a statement, a prophecy? And
Yes.
he's quoting.
Yes.
So you're happy Matthew's quoting that verbatim?
He's not quoting a verbatim. I've explicitly said that because he is not quoting a prophet when he says that Jesus will be called.
So whatever he's quoting, the approximate
sure.
meaning is correct.
Yes, he is getting it.
The meaning.
He is semantically on point.
Good.
In that by the Messiah being born in Nazareth, he would be called a Nazarene.
No. He says he would be called a Nazarene.
Yes.
Was he called a Nazarene?
Yes.
In the Old Testament.
In the Old Testament says that Jesus will come from Nazareth, and in those
That's
days
the first part.
we did not have our modern surnames.
That's the first part.
right?
That's the first part.
Huh?
The second part, that he will be called a Nazarene.
Yes. What I'm saying, man, is that logically speaking, right?
I'm using logic throughout.
Someone from Nazareth.
Isn't
What would you call them? What would you call someone from Nazareth
Nazorian.
or Nazarene?
Hang on.
Nazarene.
If I say
He said
someone
Nazarian.
from Nazorian,
So wait. If you're from Judah, are you a Judanian? Get out of here, man.
so
Nazarian. What are you talking about?
I'm good, thank you.
Is that being from Manchester? You're Mancunian.
So what I'm saying is, he said
Damn idiot, man.
Nazorian is also in one of the translations I've read quite some time.
Yes, I mean,
From where? Mansoor, you read things, but you can't cite them. You always just cite things without actually providing proof.
So I'm going to ignore the headers.
I read somewhere that Muhammad was a girl. I can't remember where.
So as I'm saying, he is saying that he'll be called a Nazarene even in meaning, correct?
No.
So can you kind
Remember
of
what he
come down
said?
a little bit, but
Because he's not quoting verbatim,
yes, it's not quoting verbatim.
that means whatever he's saying, the meaning is correct.
Yes.
So he will be called a Nazarene, the meaning is correct.
Yes, because the Messiah would come from Nazareth.
Do we
Yes.
find anything like this in meaning that he is prophesied he'll be called a Nazarene?
We
What
find
question is that?
the Old Testament saying that the Messiah will come from Nazareth.
That's the first part of his prophecy.
Yeah.
The second part I'm dealing with. When should you deal with the second part?
Make them the same parts.
No, two parts.
So I shouldn't raise my voice there, but like
Prove
they're,
it wasn't.
they're the same parts. Like where are you from, Mansoor?
I'm from just there, not London.
Okay,
He's
so
from
are you a
Bengali
Londonian?
or whatever.
Could I say, oh, Mansoor,
Londoner.
the Londonian, or Londoner, or whatever word I want to use?
No.
Or
I wasn't born in London.
the
Okay, where were you
Londanian.
born then?
Hang on, because
In
I'm not born in
Bengal,
London,
man.
even though I'm from London, it doesn't make me Londonian.
Okay, where were you born?
So-
You were born in London.
Listen to my argument.
He's Bengali.
I'm from London right now. I'm
Yes,
from London.
you're from London.
But
You're
I'm
a
not
Londoner.
born in London.
You're a Londoner.
So you're not
Okay,
from London.
so what am
you
I?
live in London.
You are a Londoner.
So,
You-
Like,
good.
would you see yourself as a Londoner?
So you're saying it doesn't have to do anything with my birth in London. I can still be a.
What, Jesus was
I can
born
still
in
be a Londoner.
Nazareth?
Now you're
I get
realizing.
distracted by them, but yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you get distracted by him and not by him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, go
Someone
ahead.
close to you.
So if you're getting distracted, don't
so now you realize,
convert
now
your
you
experience with him.
now you realize,
Don't project.
you don't have to be born in a certain place
Can I
to
also
be called
point
a Londonian whatever.
But what you're doing is
Matthew,
an anachronism. You're making a huge anachronism.
Wait.
There's no
You're
Lebanese.
understanding the concept that you have given me. So Matthew makes first statement that he will be born in Nazareth, and then he will be also called, as was spoken by the prophets, he will be called a Nazarene. The fact that we don't find the statement spoken by the prophets, he will be called a Nazarene.
Where does Matthew say that he'll be born in Nazareth?
Isn't that what you said?
No. What is said is that
He'll be
is that
He'll be from Nazareth.
Jesus moved
Or something.
from Nazareth, right? Sorry. Did you say from Nazareth?
Let me just read.
We just read earlier on.
Yeah. Your friend had it, but
Yeah, I know.
he's dismissed.
Okay. Let's say it doesn't say born. But the
Matthew
point
2,
I'm making
verse
is this.
23.
Okay, but the point you're making is built on the idea that he says born, and so like your
Okay, we need to read the text then.
So,
We need to read the
Jack,
text.
it's Matthew
We need to
2,
read
verse
the text.
23.
Oh, is it 2?
223, what does he say?
223. I always get 2 and 3 mixed up. Right. And he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. Where does Matthew say that where does Matthew quote a prophet saying that the Messiah would be born in Nazareth?
Okay, so he doesn't say born. That's why I want to go to the text what it says.
Progress.
Right. So now, you think there was a prophecy in which it says he will be called. Look, why is this inverted text? He'll be called a Nazarene in this particular
So at least in this
Bible
sense,
study. Yeah, I have got it in inverted quotes. Wow, that means that is the prophecy.
yeah. I mean, I can't see any quotes here. Oh, here the NRSV. Okay.
Yeah, what does it say?
NRSV just say So the word means
ESV, your favorite one? Look, it's in quotes. The prophecy is the one in quotes.
Yes, but the problem is, my friend, like
and what's the problem?
quotes did not exist
No.
in Greek.
For you to understand,
But whenever an English translator is adding quotes,
Listen.
they're adding them in, right?
they're adding them in to tell you, the English reader of today.
But not all scholars are agreeing that he's directly quoting
ESV that you prefer.
I said I prefer the
NIV
I got the NIV. So the NIV doesn't
and
quote
ESV.
quotes.
NIV and ESV, and this ESV gives you a code, the NLT gives you a code, MSG gives you a code.
Well, yeah, MSG is rubbish, but
I don't know what these are, but what I'm saying is, the Bible translators are giving you an indication what that prophecy was.
But
The
which Bible
prophecy-
translators? Be honest.
Sorry?
So I.
Do you disagree with the ESV
So
translators? Do you know better than them?
Well, the NIV people, they haven't put quotes.
Fine.
But both these Swedish
The
Bibles
ESV.
haven't put quotes.
The ESV. Do you think the ESV people don't know?
Well, they come from different
Right.
translations.
They
So
make
what
the
I'm
reason
saying is,
believing what they believe.
It's not about
what I am
no.
saying, Jack,
It's not,
that
it's
I
not
have.
about knowledge.
I
There's
have.
different translations.
I have,
Yeah.
at least from your own biblical translations,
Greek, but
listen,
yes.
listen, an indication to tell you the prophecy part was this, that he shall be called a Nazarene.
Well,
in fact,
can you show me any early father, for example, confirming what you're saying?
Why don't you take that
You're making an
also
assertion.
as a
Like,
study?
all you've been doing is making assertions.
Listen.
But what are you doing, Mansoor? Is you're telling me that I should only listen to the translation that you agree with.
You didn't hear what I'm saying. You didn't hear what I'm
That's
saying.
exactly what you're saying.
I'm saying make this into your study of that subject.
But you haven't studied
and
it, so
go
how
and
can you
find
tell him you're
out
going to study when you don't know
which
yourself?
part
You're making him do your homework for
Matthew
you.
was
You're
trying
making
to
assertions with no
allude
truth in
to
them.
have been the prophecy as was spoken. No, listen, finish. Let me finish, my friend. According to your scholarship.
You let him finish.
Yeah, according to your scholarship.
Don't say that, man. If you're not actually quoting scholarship,
This
don't say that.
is
do you know-
It's so dishonest.
do you-
It's so dishonest.
Don't be silly. What I am saying is,
Scholars say
according to
when they
your
can't tell you what
scholarship,
scholar said it.
go and find.
Can you tell
Let
us
me
the scholar?
finish.
What scholar said it?
How can I finish if you don't have
Let's not scholar.
Hear me out.
Let's
Then
pull up
you,
right now.
then you feel sorry.
continue, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You feel sorry. I am saying, go and study and find
Calm
out.
down, man. So calm down.
Go and find out as a study session for you
But do you?
what the scholarship, your scholarship, have to say on this matter in which
what he studied session.
Matthew,
Matthew
in which
2:23.
Matthew is trying to say
he
which
went to
part
the
did he mean to be a prophecy. I am not
He
saying
called
pick and
Nazarene.
choose. I am saying go and ask your scholars. Go and see if there's a consensus. Go and see if there's a majority. Go and see if there's a preference. That's all I'm saying. Isn't that fair?
So
Hang on. Is that fair?
So I don't.
Is that fair?
It's fair if I do it and you do it as well.
No. For you. Hey, Jack. I am saying because you disagree.
He can't learn new things,
Because you
man.
disagree.
disagree as well.
Hang on. I'm making the claim.
Yes.
You are disagreeing.
But you're disagreeing with other scholars.
Wait.
Learn.
Because you're disagreeing, the way to resolve this dispute between you and I,
He hasn't said anything.
you're going
just
to
say the
first
name.
approach that I'm
Just
giving
say
you
the name
Which one?
by looking at your scholarship and what they have to
say
say.
the name of the
This,
scholar.
wait. I don't have to ask you rhetorically, is it fair or not? I
say the
know
name of the
it is
scholar.
a fair approach. Now,
Yes,
hang
so
on.
you
So
don't
let me
do
know,
it.
let me know.
So that you know.
Matthew, not only stops there in
I've got something
interrupting,
You just want to know.
in making up prophecies.
This pedophile.
Making up prophecies.
This pedophile right here
He says,
said that he would
Do you
give his
remember
9-year-old daughter
the
to a grown man
graves
to marry. You're a damn
Let's say-
pedophile.
What the heck? Wait.
Now he wants to twerk on me. Look at this pedophilic Sheikh. Sheikh, I'm not 9 years old. Sheikh, I am not 9 years old, Sheikh. Sorry. You're going to get it from me, Sheikh. I'm not 9-year-old, Sheikh. So please, it's good for me. Why are you shaking your booty on me? That's what I want to know, Sheikh.
Jack, come on this side. Come on this side. Thank you.
So, Mansoor, may I say? So
I'm going to wrap this up shortly. So, my last example. Let me say, my last example. So, Matthew is trying to give you historical information about what happened in Christ's life. He tells us about in colloquial terms, zombies. Of the dead saints are coming up from the ground and appearing to many. Now imagine today if the ground open up here. Look, just look around here. If that ground open up and several T-Rexes, dinosaurs, came from the ground, yeah? Came from the ground and started
He wasn't talking at me.
stampeding, eating some, killing some, smashing some, and it went here we're up to. And then the only person, Jack, narrating
Did you
this.
get my back?
Absolutely. It's just right.
The only person. Remember this? I want you to really, give your ears to this. The only person.
It's okay, even paedophile.
That-
Yeah, keep coming.
Excuse me. These are unworthy creatures, disgusting creatures. Leave him out. What I'm
Come on,
saying
Sheikh
is,
pedophile, man. Like, leave us alone.
we
I know you
find
like your young boys, but please. I
are you listening?
know you like young boys,
Are you
but please
listening?
go away, please. I don't want you.
Imagine that event of Tyrannosaurus Rex
Get in the back there, David. That's it.
coming up, stampeding, killing some, eating some, smashing some, and it went that way. Guess what?
Don't worry, Hashim.
This
I'll
happened.
get you some
Imagine this
teeth
happened
whitener,
today,
okay?
right?
Next week.
The only
Get in
person
the backs.
that narrated this story
Yes. You know what you're doing?
was
We'll
you,
do. Brush your teeth too, if you don't mind.
and none of them, even though they had phones and cameras, they were academics from Oxford and others, for example. None of them mentioned the story.
Run.
The only person mentioning the story is you. Now, such a story we
And you're a
expect
pedophile. And you're a pedophile.
to be narrated by people to their friends and families, to their colleagues, to their children. They will talk about it. I would go and talk about it. I will go and tell my children and my family.
I understand
This man
that
will
he
go and
needs to
say
go to
this.
the dentist.
There will be
Beyond that, I
this
don't know.
news will be all over. Now imagine that event. No one narrates it. After this happened, tomorrow we find out nothing. Some of your friends
Yo,
only
Sid,
hear
be
from
careful.
you.
This man wants you. Be
Do you
careful,
think
be careful.
this kind of reporting of such an event of this magnitude is believable if it's only coming from you and the rest as we expect? So the historians otherwise,
Therefore, we
they're
can't
all
believe
silent.
Muhammad about anything he says. Okay.
What you've done, Mansoor, is
Answer it.
you've moved the conversation on.
I
Before I
haven't-
had an opportunity to
I haven't
respond to what
moved.
you were saying.
I'll give you my third example. No, Jack, stop. I will let you speak. I'll give you my third example. Remember I said this is my third example.
So I'm very happy to talk about the example, and I promise that I will. Okay, so I'm not avoiding the question. I will talk about it. But you said, I think, that when it gets to the second example, that I was about to point out the fact that there are many translations. I showed you multiple in English. I showed you two that are in Swedish that do not show.
Inverted code is irrelevant.
That do not show. They are very. You made.
To me it's relevant.
You've made them
To
very.
you it's relevant. To you.
No, but like.
To me it's relevant.
But you
I don't need
said
inverted
the
codes.
reason I need to go and study is because I'm in disagreement with my own scholars.
Yes,
but
you
you're
are.
in disagreement with them as well because you are insisting that there should be quotes when there's so many
no, I'm
scholars
not.
that do not have quotes.
Let me correct you there.
And so therefore you need
No,
to go and study as well.
let me correct you there. I don't need to have inverted quotes in those statements.
Okay.
I can go and see what the scholars have to say.
Yeah, but which one?
Right? So you, because you disagree, you go and look at the best approach.
Yeah, but you're
which is-
I agree with
some scholars. Which one?
I'm agreeing with scholars.
which scholars do you agree with?
The ones who translated the ESV, those who
The ESV has
translated
a quote.
Svenska Folkbibeln,
The ESV,
those who
the
translated...
ESV has a quote, and you disagree with them.
Why?
Yeah, we're gonna go. ESV has a quote, and you disagree with
You
them.
can, now what?
Yes, but I'm
Okay.
agreeing
Give him a third
with
example.
many other scholars.
I have to go shortly because I'm breaking time for our fast.
So?
Can you deal with my third example? Third example? Deal with my third example.
Third example.
Matthew invented it. This is not clear.
If you want to help him,
That's why his gospel is not reliable.
So Mansoor, unfortunately, the very best you're making in what's called an argument from silence. This is a classic logical fallacy, particularly when it comes to historical analysis. So the fact that no one seems to talk about it does not mean it didn't happen, right? Like,
Such an event would go undercooked, yeah?
I don't think there's a way of guaranteeing that.
If dead people arose and he was your granddad. Sorry, not granddad.
Now he's doing this.
If he was great-great-great-granddad, one second.
Wow.
If he was your great-great-great-granddad,
By the way,
no one you would not talk about it. Your family wouldn't talk about it.
By the way,
And Mansoor, if the moon were split in two,
yeah, no one talks about it.
who would
Deal with this
everyone
first.
talk about
We'll
it?
talk about the moon later.
No one talks about it. It's the same
Deal with
problem.
that. Would no one talk about it?
I think people would talk about it.
Sorry? Would people talk about if your great-great-granddad raised from the dead
They
and
would talk
walked?
about it. People would talk about the moon splitting in two, but no one seems to.
Wait, deal with that first. Then we'll talk about the moon splitting if time permits.
What
What I'm saying is this.
If time permits, he might run away before he
He's going for his
prayer.
So,
Well, he's never going to go.
why did no other historian record the dead saints walking and appearing to many? Why not?
They may have, but we don't have access to their records.
Such an event, no one recorded it.
No, that's not what I just said.
What did you say?
What I'm saying
They
is
may
that they may have, but we do not have access to those.
no.
They have disappeared.
This is your belief. I'm not asking you for belief. I want for evidence. Where's the evidence?
Where's the evidence for that? I cannot make a statement of evidence.
The fact that there is no evidence.
No, Mansoor.
There is no evidence.
Mansoor, there's no evidence for your view either.
No, there is no evidence that people talked about this. Because there is evidence.
Gospel of Matthew.
No, that's why the Matthew is in dispute. Because
He's not in dispute.
Listen,
In that case, the Quran's in dispute then.
we expect this event should have been narrated by, documented by, talked about by various people,
Certainly.
chroniclers, historians.
It's the best.
The
It's the
fact
topic, man.
that
It's the topic.
there is no evidence that anyone did, and only Matthew did, and when Matthew has been demonstrated again and again, he distorts prophecies, he invents prophecies, he distorts history. It gives you more of a credence to say Matthew is dishonest.
So,
Then the Quran.
I'm not
You can finish your statement, but we have to go.
You had a question, by the way.
So, yeah, there are a few questions here that I asked you that you did not respond to. That's like an hour ago, but yeah.
Another time.
Sure, yeah. But all your people of establishing here, Mansoor, is that Matthew is the only. Sorry, that I keep saying Muhammad. That Matthew is the
Unreliable and dishonest.
the only attestation to this event, right? You have not, in any sense, and you could not, in any sense, establish definitively that he is lying.
I've given you 3 examples of lies.
No, on this particular example.
3 examples of lies, and you're not happy with more. Do you want more?
Again, you're.
Do you want more? I can give you more.
I can't answer anything you say because you just move on to something else.
You are simply brushing it aside when you know. When you know these are real prophets. Deal with that.
I'm saying exactly what scholarship would say, which is that at the very least, all we have is Matthew being the only attestation.
Who is the scholar who thinks Matthew fabricated it?
Yes. Yo, Hashim, have him. Call a friend. Call a friend.
No, Matthew's zombie story. There's a scholar.
Call a friend.
The biggest Christian scholar who says this is Matthew's own invention.
Cool.
No, Barnum.
Nice. I'd love to see who that is.
No, there's others. Do you know who it is? Who it is? Do you know? Doesn't matter.
Mansoor,
Even Christian scholars
you
themselves.
haven't established it. You don't know
I'm saying
you're making things up.
it is already in public
Muslim
knowledge.
scholars say
I can't
that the
remember
Quran
right now.
is an
Doesn't mean
error.
it's not there. You
Blame
can go
them.
find out.
I don't know.
Right?
Abdul something.
Yeah.
You haven't established anything. All you're saying is emptiness.
What I said, all of them is
Exactly.
already public knowledge. Just because, look, if I get Muslim now, you'll tell me
You're the
straight away
true
who it is,
shiner.
right?
My shoes are shining.
It's well known.
If you don't mind. They need shining, man. Yeah, shine them. Go for it.
And then
You gotta use that beard of yours.
That story.
For your brush.
Even Christian scholars say that. So your reliability of the Gospels, I'm afraid, is crumbled.
You have not established that. I hope that we can
All right.
You take care.
Alrighty. Well, all we can then see there is that Mansoor is incapable of asking and answering any questions, and so as a result, that would then mean that ultimately everything Mansoor says is frameless. Mansoor appeals to scholars, but he can't name the scholars. Mansoor appeals to scholarship, he can't name anything. Mansoor says it's a contradiction, and he can't name anything. That's really the issue. Well, anywho, Mansoor's a damn liar. That's what I gotta say.